Warning. The Outsider's Edge contains strong opinions, unconventional views, and contrarian stances. Listen, if you dare.
Hey, yo!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of The Outsider's Edge. We're back again. It's your boy Rance, aka Ray Cash, with my partner in crime. I guess that goes with the theme, right? My boy Carl, aka King Curvin. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Here we are, episode 2, running together here. No more bathtub. He's doing his own thing. He's a turncoat. That's fine. But
No!
shout out to Caleb. But yeah, man, just ready to get on it. Another big week of wrestling. Lots to talk about.
So before we move on, I want to get this out the way. Our good friends across the pond, Ricky and Clive, have three questions, if you will, for us. One specifically from Ricky to you. Okay.
One from Ricky to me. Okay,
Yes.
Ricky, what you got? Let's hear it.
But the first one is from Clive, aka Brian, and he wants to know who wants to walk with Elias.
Who wants to walk with Elias?
This is a real question. Yes, I'm in the video. I'm showing you. the
Yeah.
message.
Okay, I believe it. I've been walking with Elias. I mean, that dude's amazing. He called Renee Rachel. He pulled the Jericho last Monday, and I laughed my ass off.
Yeah, it was
So
funny.
he's outstanding.
I have an actual answer for that. Who wants to walk with Elias?
Yeah,
People who like to walk.
people who like to walk. So anyone who walks will walk with Elias.
Technically, right?
Walk. Okay.
As I say that, I imagine like those middle-aged white ladies that do that super pump, power walk type stuff.
Through the mall.
Yeah.
They do it through like the perimeter of the mall. That's what they do, at least at our mall. I don't know about yours, but
Well, I live in a big city, so that don't happen. Second question.
that's
This
fair.
is a real question. This is a real question.
For us.
Yes, for both of us.
Okay.
For you both, again, and this is from Ricky. This is his real question. For you both, what NXT call-up or wrestler who moved brands are you most excited to see what they do?
So what
And we're going to talk about
NXT
the shakeup today, so I guess it's relevant. But yeah,
Right, but what NXT guy that got moved up?
or person who got moved in the shakeup.
Okay.
You want to
You
go first?
answer
Or you
that
want
first.
me? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a two-part answer. Only because I want to shout out a guy. I want to shout out Andrade Cien Almas because I'm more excited for him than anybody.
Right.
But to answer the question, it's undoubtedly Drew McIntyre because of everything I've watched of both shows. The one thing that left me the most shocked was seeing Drew get called up with Dolph out of nowhere. And
Right.
I think the intrigue of that, and again, Dolph is of course a great in-ring wrestler. He can talk. He is probably the least consistent guy in terms of wins and losses and pushes and non-starts and stops and whatnot. But to see those two together, what they could be doing, everybody assumes that it's a Shawn Michaels Diesel situation. What if Drew is actually the guy in charge, or what if they're equals, or we don't know.
Right.
And to kind of see Drew in a situation where he has to prove himself. I like the way Triple H said it in his tweet. When Triple H has to shake everybody's hand and take pretty pictures and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And in the tweet, he said something to the order of, he's back with a vengeance, but he doesn't want to be chosen this time. This time he's taking it on his own. It was something real cool, cleverly alluding to him being the chosen one before, and now him having to come back and do it on his own type deal. So yeah,
Right.
I think Drew would be the guy, I would say, because that's the only segment that in the Joe segment, of course, was surprising, but the only one that left me like, oh my God, was the Drew segment.
Right.
So I'm really curious to see what they do.
Okay. See, for me it's Andrade Cien Almas also, but mostly because he's bringing Zelina with him. And I
Word.
say that, and the reason why I say that is because Andrade by himself is really talented,
Yeah.
but that's what he would be there for, to be a talented guy who can wrestle people. Because
A good
everybody on
hand.
that SmackDown roster against Andrade is going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
But the added element of Zelina makes you wonder what they can do with him, almost not instantly, but like what they can do with him quickly.
Sure.
Like, I don't think he's coming there to just be a guy to wrestle. He's coming there to be a player. That's like, I think if they had not brought Zelina with him, he's just a guy that's there to be there. But by bringing Zelina, I think he's going to be a player, not immediately, but
Yeah.
pretty quick. You know what I'm saying?
I absolutely understand what you're saying, and they have become a package akin to, not on the same level as, but akin to Heyman and Brock. You can't see one without the other.
Right.
Um, and I think that's awesome. Zelina is so awesome at her job, and we know Andrade has been and has the capacity to be one of the best wrestlers in the company. But
Yeah.
with the entire package, with him not having to worry about talking and just kind of being playboy slash angry Andrade, it works perfect. So
Well, and the cool thing is Zelina can wrestle.
yes,
So
she wrestled the
you can
first
have,
match officially last night on NXT.
yeah, against Candice LeRae. So you got, like, I mean, you've got two talents in one. And of course, we've seen what Zelina can do when she's out there,
Trying to help him out.
causing distractions
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I really think, I'm super pumped for him. Like, because that dude is just together. They are something. I mean, really something. Like, I feel like that is a special call up. Like, I have a feel, if anyone's gonna have, I think they're gonna have the most success. Not initially,
Of the
but I
NXT
think
of the NXT call
overall,
ups.
right? Not initially, but I think overall in the long term, I think they'll have the most success.
I would have to disagree with that because Ember is tailor made to dominate,
Yeah, maybe.
I think.
A long term though, I don't know, man, because they've shown inconsistencies with that women's division at times, just like in how they book it and slopping together 6-man tags and shit like that a lot of times. We'll just have to see. I mean, there's a lot. The whole group they called up outside of No Way Jose has the potential to, like, really do a lot.
Don't disrespect No Way Jose.
I love No Way
I
Jose,
don't appreciate that.
but he's about to get his ass whooped by Jinder on Monday, so everybody's gonna be crying their tears about that, I'm sure.
That he will be getting his ass whooped. I agree with that. So the last question,
Yeah.
and I kind of gave you a heads up, but this is a look.
Bullshit.
Yes, I apologize. I am the conduit. I am the messenger. Please don't attack me.
This is from Clive, right?
This is from Ricky.
Oh,
And for
Ricky. Okay.
and for Carl only, what do the numbers 4133 represent?
4133.
Yes.
Oh.
Did it hit you?
The Eagle. Hey, yeah. The Eagles' first ever Super Bowl. Congratulations. It only took 60 years of your existence. Great job.
For those of you listening,
That's
who don't know, Carl is a huge Dallas Cowboys fan, and Ricky, even though he
Yes,
is
I am.
born and raised in Scotland, is a big
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia Eagles fan. So yeah,
It sounds like he loves freedom. So whenever he's ready to come on over to America, um, and learn that over here, America's team isn't actually the Eagles. It's actually the Patriots. Then we'll be,
is it? Is
yeah.
it? Okay.
Then, you know,
I didn't. I missed that part. I didn't
yeah,
know
well,
that was the case.
I'm
Okay.
taking it away from the Cowboys for a while, so
Well, no, it's been taken away from the Cowboys. You kind of have to win a couple of playoff games in like 25 years, but
shut your damn mouth. Go ahead.
So, what we want to talk about today, we try to be different and not just kind of give you your run in the mill stuff. Nothing wrong with that, but that's just not who we are. So I kind of wanted to. We're gonna talk about the Superstar Shakeup, but I kind of wanted to kind of put a bow on everything and talk about themed shows. You know, a lot of fans have issues with stuff like that. For example, like the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, they have an issue with, oh, but now you have to book your whole year around a Hell in a Cell instead of just using it when stuff like that, right? Or TLC or Extreme Rules, or even if you want to be really meta about it, the Royal Rumble and Survivor Series are themed pay-per-views, right?
Yeah, sure.
So first and foremost, or you can even go to a smaller extent and talk about like Raw 25 or
Yeah.
uh or the draft episodes, stuff like that. So first and foremost, before we get any deeper into that, what is your thought on what is your thought on themed wrestling shows in general? Because it doesn't have to be extended to just WWE. Joey Janela's Spring Break, GCW Bloodsport,
Yeah.
Kaiju Big Battle, like those are themed
Right.
shows. So
Um,
what do you think?
I mean, I guess I'm not one way or the other about it. I mean, I don't get like, I will say this, like, I don't think the argument that you have to work your booking around one theme show that's hogwash to me. Poppycock, just a bunch of
Poppycock.
crap.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, first of all, think about the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. The first one was they didn't
Please
just
don't do that.
they didn't just well, I mean, they didn't just bring that back last year. That's been around.
Oh God, now
And
I have to
they've
research. Okay.
well, the thing is though, they've used you don't even really have to search because they've used it at other pay-per-views. They
Sure.
used Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania with Shane and Undertaker.
Yeah.
They've used it. They used it Hell in a Cell with Triple H and Undertaker.
Yeah.
So I mean, they use it sparingly. So that I mean,
For the record, the first Hell in a Cell pay-per-view was 2009 in Newark, New Jersey, and the main event was DX versus Legacy in the Tornado Tag. And I think also on that pay-per-view in Hell in a Cell matches were uh, Taker and Punk opened up the card with the World Heavyweight Championship match.
right.
And then Orton and Cena had their WWE Championship match in the middle of the card, and DX and Legacy ended the show.
Okay, so that's kind of like I mean, so here's another argument I would say, kind of against it. It depends on what they do. Like so, for instance, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, they had the Hell in a Cell, and they had 3 Hell in a Cell matches in the same night.
Yes.
Charlotte and Sasha, Roman and Rusev, and I can't even remember the other one.
Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins for the Universal Championship.
Kevin Owens and Seth. Okay, thank you.
That was the best match of the 3, honestly.
Right. So
So, yeah.
sometimes what they can do sometimes is say, all right, well, you get a Hell in a Cell match, you get a Hell in a Cell match. You know what I mean? That
So
whole
Vince
thing.
is Oprah.
And yeah, right. And you and I have talked about this before, and I think even when Caleb was still with us, we were talking about it. Like sometimes not every match calls for the cell. You can argue whether it does or doesn't.
Sure.
But so sometimes you can kind of oversaturate it. Like the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, they've gotten to where now, you in theory, I guess, because they've added a ladder match to it.
Mm-hmm.
Before they were doing the men's Money in the Bank, and they didn't have separate briefcases when they were brand split. I can't remember all the details.
They did have separate.
Yeah.
They did have a red one and a blue one at one point. Yes.
As long as you use it for its purpose, like the Money in the Bank has a specific purpose, so you still get regular matches on that card. You don't just get Money in the Bank matches. So as long as you don't oversaturate it,
Sure.
I'm good with those. One thing I will say, and we're going to talk about the shakeup, and I don't want to give away my hand here, is it can lead to making some predictable outcomes at times.
Sure.
Certain theme shows, not like Money in the Bank or Hell in a Cell, but certain ones can lead to some predictable things, and not just on that specific show, but going further, into the next pay-per-view or the next whatever.
Sure.
So that's usually where my gripes lie with theme shows. I don't have an issue with a Raw 25 is just a celebration. Like, I get it. It's not for everybody. Like, some people don't want to sit around and watch all these old school guys come in. Like the whole thing that happened at Raw 25 with DX and Balor Club. And
don't remind people they forgot about that. Don't remind them.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you reminded them. But anyways, I just like I can see where people would get disappointed in that, but they have their place. I don't think they're. It's not like they do it all the time. So you know what I mean? Like, and we get into this whole
But
thing of we're
they
like
do.
one. Well, I'm just saying we get into this whole like not we, but a lot of people get into the mindset of like we need like it's got to be my way all the time. And sometimes, if you go back and look at the ratings, sometimes I bet you like that Raw 25 was probably one of the highest rated shows of the year. So you can get upset about these themed shows as much as you want, but people watch them, and they watch them more than a random Raw in the middle of September. You know what I mean? So you got to consider that sometimes too. Like you may not like them, but they're working for somebody.
So yeah, that's kind of something me and you we talk about a lot, personally and on the podcast, is fans tempering their expectations because it's not all about them. You know, they need to, like there's a purpose for things, sometimes bigger than we as individual fans or as a group of fans can see. But
Yeah.
let me just I'm gonna read out in this calendar year from January to December the number of themed pay-per-views.
Okay.
Um, and of course, when I say theme, I mean the name of the pay-per-view and the overarching theme of the pay-per-view is built around a particular match, right?
Yeah. Sure.
So, Royal Rumble in January, Elimination Chamber in February, Greatest Royal Rumble in a few weeks, Money in the Bank in June, Extreme Rules in July, Hell in a Cell in September, TLC in October, Survivor Series in November, Clash of Champions in December. So,
And Raw 25, which happened in January as well.
well, I'm just right now. We can get to the TV in a minute. I'm talking about just pay-per-views because
Right.
that's where most of the vitriol is coming from.
Sure.
Because,
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
well, yeah, just give me a sec. A lot of fans want to say, well, man, I miss the days of No Mercy and I miss the days of back. Like, cool, I get that, but here's the. So let me run down a couple of lists of reasons why. Number one, it's not that big a deal, and number two, you should be happy there are theme shows. Okay. First and foremost, number one, y'all complain about creative all day, every day, right? So wouldn't it be easier for creative to build around a certain type of match than it would to just do something,
That's fair, I guess. Yeah.
right? So if you know you have a Hell in a Cell to book for October, or I'm sorry, what is it now? In September this year, it would
Okay.
be a lot easier for you to say a couple months out, oh yeah, we got a Hell in a Cell match. We should probably make a view pretty hot, right? I would think
Yeah.
so. And of course, I don't hate creative as much as everybody else does, but if you hate them, surely that's something you can see with beyond the realm of, in your realm of understanding, right? Secondly, and this is the one I'm really stamping on. Y'all wasn't buying the pay-per-views before. As a person who I can honestly say, and yes, I was blessed or spoiled or a little bit of both. I bought every pay-per-view. When I was younger, I bought the majority of them. My family bought them for me, and I thank that. And when I got older, I bought them with my own money. But I bought every pay-per-view. I don't believe in the streaming bullshit because, as you said earlier on the call, because right now you're wearing a Rowdy Ronda Rousey shirt, and I messed with you about that, and your
Yeah, you
response
did.
was, "I support what I like." Same here. So I bought all the shows. So don't I know for a fact that when backlashes were happening in 2009 or 2005 or 2000 whatever, y'all wasn't buying them because their buy rates were like 200,000. You know, like
Yeah.
really not good. You know, uh, especially when they were single branded. I remember particularly Judgment Day, whatever year it was. I remember the marquee matches on that card. I can't even tell you what the main event was, but Chris Benoit versus Finley. Uh, I want to say Jamie Noble versus Billy Kidman and Bobby Lashley versus Booker T to see who won the King of the Ring. That don't sound like something you'd want to buy, but I bought it because I support what I like.
Okay.
So you weren't buying pay-per-views anyway. So now what they're saying is, well, you might not really be interested in the pay-per-view, but there's a Money in the Bank match. You might watch that,
Right.
right? Or
Sure. Yeah.
you might not be into, all the feuds on the card, but there's a Hell in a Cell match. You might buy that.
Yeah.
And buy rates went up. Now I'm not talking like every buy rate got WrestleMania level buy rates, but buy rates went up. So, and viewership, of course, the network has changed everything to where, $9.99 a month, this, that, and the other. You don't have to really worry about that. But I would venture to say that viewership is up all around from a network standpoint. So,
Well, those numbers for the network seem to always increase from year to year. I don't know if they've always increased, but they have peaks and valleys, but the retain, it's not so much for them, like, as far as the network goes, it's not so much as how many people watch it, it's how many people they can retain
yes,
as paying customers. And so a lot of times, from what I've always kind of learned, they seem to be doing pretty well in keeping retained memberships
they're doing great.
over the course of time. The
Yeah.
trend has been upward. Eventually, it'll probably peak at some point, but they continue to kind of like it'll be like a rise and a drop, and then that drop will jump up to a higher rise than before, and then just kind of go like that.
But it's never really a full-on drop.
No, not a drop. It's
because
just the people that don't retain their membership. Like they might go from like 1.4, and then WrestleMania happens, and say for WrestleMania they get like 2.8, right? But they already had 1.4, and just say they get 2.8. Well, then all of a sudden the people who watch Mania are like, and it drops down to like 1.7, but it's still higher than that 1.4 they had before.
Your numbers
so they're
are
still
a bit dramatic, but yes.
Yeah, they are. They're just
Sure.
for like argument's sake, but they always climb.
Yes, I get what you're saying.
Because
Yeah.
the retainers always climb. But
And-
I
and
mean,
that's that climb, that peak and valley is on purpose because of the no commitment $9.99 a month
sure, yeah, of
first
course.
month free type deal. So of course that was gonna be expected. But yeah.
Absolutely. So to kind of, I want to piggyback off your first point because I can't really speak on your second one because I'm guilty of streaming pay-per-views. I mean, that's for those who haven't, more power to you. That's awesome. I'm glad that you guys haven't done that. I mean, I hope it's nice up there in your ivory tower. I'm just kidding.
Oh, word?
But
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
It is. It's very comfortable, by the way.
I bet it is. But yeah, I mean, I have streamed pay-per-views before, but I also have bought them. So I mean, it's just kind of, I wasn't ever a hardcore streamer. Like if there was something I just really wanted to watch, I'm more likely to like go to a friend's house and maybe pitch in and buy the show. That's more my mo. But I have streamed before, so I'm not gonna jump that.
I probably have two of them on it. I just can't remember.
Sure, and that's fine. But I want to jump on your first point. Like people like you miss No Mercy or like whatever. First of all, I prefer what they do now as opposed to some of the stuff they did before, like the In Your Houses, right? Like those were
this Tuesday in Texas.
Yeah, like good
Capital
Carnage. What is it? Good Friends, Better Enemies, or something, or like Beware of Dog, or like
Insurrection.
Like the In Your House names were so bad.
Yeah.
Like if you imagine, like if you wanted to, okay, let's say about this. Let's say, and this I could be wrong about this, but just for argument's sake, let's say like you and I like had a friend that never watched wrestling.
Okay.
Right, and we wanted to watch a wrestling show. And it can't be WrestleMania, okay? It's got to be something else. It can't be like one of the four staples. It's got to be one of these kind of themed, whatever. Are we going to say, hey, man, you want to come over to the house and watch In Your House, Beware of Dog tonight? What do you think your response is going to be to that? Or you could say, hey, man, tonight WWE's putting on a pay-per-view. It's Hell in a Cell. Like a bunch of matches are going to be like in a steel cage. You know what I mean? Like there's a selling point maybe as opposed to like Beware of Dog or something like that. That's just my thought. Like the names are so bad that when you're trying to sell this stuff, they're branding their shit. And that's the way, that's what's worked for them in the past. And, with branding certain shows like they did with the Royal Rumble, that's a brand. WrestleMania is a brand. You know what I mean? Like those themed ideas, believe it or not, people love themed shit.
Yes.
That's why people go to Mardi Gras every year, right? That is a themed thing that happens in Louisiana, or a St. Patrick's Day parade, right? Like that. I mean, these are
Macy's
Valentine's Day. These are all, it's themed shit. People watch that crap. So like, I mean, overall, like for us that aren't like, we're in our own little bubble in the rest of the world, you know? So like, it's easy to criticize in that bubble. And I get that, and that's fine. And I'm not trying to shit on anybody who criticizes, but sometimes you do kind of have to look outside that bubble because there's a lot of casual people that watch shit, and what's going to catch their eye more, Hell in a Cell or Beware of Dog? I'm just saying, like, it was just, you know,
I think
even No Mercy is a terrible name. Like,
I think you're really I think you're really underestimating the merits of Beware of Dog. I think
I might be. And you know what? That card, I don't know. I don't remember the card. I'm sure it was a great card. But
no, I don't think it was good. And
no,
I'll tell you this: I'd much rather have No Mercy and Backlash when Backlash is back, of course, but No Mercy and what Over the Limit or what are some of those other shows than
Roadblock.
Sin or Greed or hold
Yeah.
up, the best one, Mayhem.
Yeah.
Those old WCW pay-per-views that I also bought too. Yeah.
Yeah, terrible. So I mean, you just got to think of it like, in terms of the theme show idea, you just got to think of it as like, it's a way to market themselves. And not unfortunately, but they know what they're doing because those theme shows, not necessarily the pay-per-views, but like going to the TV side, tend to get more viewers than a regular random episode.
So let me stick up for the other side real quick before I decimate him again because I'm gonna kill him again. But because I just think this is a really, I don't want to call it stupid because it's not fair because everybody's opinions matter, but a really superfluous argument. Okay.
Right.
But you don't hear a lot of complaints about you never heard a complaint about the Royal Rumble pay-per-view because that's canon, right? Or Survivor Series because that's canon. That's been around 20 plus years. But for the newer ones, there's not a lot of complaints about TLC because largely that pay-per-view hits every year, and same with Money in the Bank, right?
Well, that and like TLC was made famous by Edge and Christian and those guys, so that kind of like when they decided to transfer that into its own pay-per-view, they're like, oh yeah, we there's an expectation kind of what it was when those three tag teams had their.
But that's not fair because we look at Hell in a Cell with the same fervor.
No, yeah, you're right.
So, but I guess what I'm alluding to is, and for TLC, they were really clever in the beginning years of it because there was a TLC match, of course, but then there was a tables match, and there was a ladder match, and then there was a chairs match, and they tried to kind of diversify the show. But what I mean is, largely, if you just watch the show for content, the shows largely were critically acclaimed, were enjoyable. The same thing with most Money in the Bank ladder matches or pay-per-views. Not only did the ladder matches hit, but the other cards hit. So I feel like fans accepted it to a lesser extent. But I feel like with the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, to be specific, a lot of the vitriol comes from that first one because the very first match was Taker and Punk. And if you remember, that was their very first match in their feud. So there was.
You're just talking about the first Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, right?
Yes, not the very first Hell in a Cell. No, the pay-per-view. Yeah, I'm not talking matches. I'm talking pay-per-views in general, theme shows.
Yeah.
But that was the first match, I believe, in like their first match in their feud. I believe. I know they had the match at another theme pay-per-view that didn't last, Breaking Point, which was all about submissions. That was terrible. Where Punk screwed. It was a screw job type deal, and Punk beat Taker or whatever. But so in this PG world, and again, I've been very open about the fact that Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano have proven that PG can be just as brutal as TV-14.
Right.
But I would say that largely most people would agree that Hell in a Cell matches haven't been to the level of brutality that some of the other ones have, or some would argue they don't even use the cage as much as like prior ones did.
Well, let me just, before you go on, I want to jump on that real quick. I know I'm not trying to step on your point because it's a good point. It's a fair point. But
by the way, I forgot it now. Thank you.
No, damn it.
Go ahead. It's all good.
But two things about that. Like, first of all, if your argument is they don't use the cage as much, like, I just want to take a step back to and this isn't a themed show, but the very first Hell in a Cell, they went outside the cage. And that's like the very first one. So there was never any precedent set that they have to be inside this cage the entire match. So if that is an argument, to me, it's a bad one. And like the reason why I bring that up is just because I was just recently listening to another podcast talking about Bad Blood 97 when that
Yeah.
match happened.
By the way,
and
this is your favorite match of all time.
Yes, it is. That is my favorite match of all time. I love it. And Bruce Pritchard had mentioned that he didn't like the fact that they went outside the cage in the very first one because they hyped it up as this thing that you couldn't escape, right? So, like, you can stick up for that side, that's fine. But I would say that the precedent, if that is the precedent match, and it's hard, that one set a bar. That was one of the few 5-star matches that the great Dick Daddy Meltzer has ever given to WWE. One of the few.
Yes.
And if you are a fan of the star ratings, if you are a believer in those kind of things, you don't get to get mad about that because the very first match, they set the precedent that this cage can be escaped. Not only once by the wrestlers in question, but twice by Kane coming in and ripping the steel door off. So that argument, I'm going to step away. I'm going to throw that out there. But the rest of what you're saying is to me is fair. I just wanted to throw that part out. So
Sure,
go ahead.
sure. No, and that's a very good point. In fact, they doubled down on the very next one, which was Taker and Mankind.
Yeah, you're
Those
right.
were the-
Yeah, absolutely.
And I say those are the first two if you don't count that bullshit they did on Raw where they fought inside the cage. I don't count that.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah. So the first two ones, they were outside of the cage, and the most memorable spots are outside of the cage.
Outside of the cage, yeah.
I really did forget my point. I was trying to say something about Hell in a Cell, and anyway, it doesn't matter. I was trying to play the devil's advocate because while the first show was a really good show, I mean, D-Generation X versus Legacy was a great match.
Yes, it was.
Tremendous match. And Orton and Cena was actually a good match, even though that was Orton and Cena take 275. But, it was a good match too.
People were just tired of that specific pairing,
Right,
more than anything.
But see, so that Hell in a Cell was the first one they had. They had another one that they reran a few years ago, literally like 2 or 3 years ago, which both of them were good. But again, just those two together, it's yeah. But I think a lot of vitriol comes from that first, because a lot of fans would say that Hell in a Cell is supposed to be a feud ender, or when it's too vicious that it can't go any further, it's supposed to. Hell in a Cell is one of those matches that you would expect would end a feud, like a Hell in a Cell match should end a feud, or I Quit match should end a feud, or a Last Man Standing match should end a feud. Like those are like feud enders, right?
Yeah, sure.
You don't expect Teddy Long to come out and say your first match in the feud ever is the Last Man Standing match. Like you wouldn't expect that. So
right,
I get,
you build up to those matches.
Sure, but what WWE has done a lot in this generation, and I say this generation meaning like the last 10 plus years, ever since they moved out of Ruthless Aggression, is they've shown you that they're going to be progressive and think differently. For example, they've opened WrestleManias with world title matches. That doesn't mean that the world title is devalued. It just means that you can do multiple things in a card, Sure. So they've opened regular pay-per-views with world title matches. They've ended pay-per-views with non-title matches. It's so I feel like we have this, all of us as fans, me and you included, we have this nostalgic view about how we want our wrestling to be, because we want our wrestling to be how it was when it was the most favorite for us. Most favorite time for us, right? So if your most favorite time of wrestling was ECW, then of course you're going to want things to be more chaotic and more violent and stuff like that, right? If your favorite time was Hogan and Andre and Piper and Orndorff and Steamboat and Savage and stuff like that, then of course you're gonna want more stories and told and things like that, and not you'll be fine with not seeing guys every week. So, you always tend to want to see more of what you liked.
Right.
But I feel like WWE is doing a good job of changing your expectations, which will lead me to the Superstar Shakeup, because a lot of complaints I've heard about the Shakeup, and I think a lot of people are happy with the Shakeup, with the results in general, or at least intrigued. But have you heard people complaining about, well, I don't understand what the Shakeup is. Somebody needs to explain that to me. Have you heard that?
I don't understand what it is.
Yeah.
I haven't really heard that. No, most of the complaints that I've seen come from what appears to be kind of idiocy from the general managers in general. And then I have my own singular complaint, which we can discuss in a minute. Um, I don't know if you want me to kind of get into it because I
Go
did.
right ahead.
If you give me just a sec to find it, I asked, but Stephen Bell.
Yes.
I
Shout out to
asked
Steve from
him.
LOP.
Yeah,
He hosts the late night on Mondays and Tuesdays and aftershock pay-per-view
correct.
post shows after every pay-per-view with Plan. So yeah,
So
shout out
so
to
full
Steve.
credit to him because these are his tweets, and I just wanted to read them off and kind of get your opinion on them.
Hmm.
He's a little heavy-handed, and that's kind of his style, and that's fine.
That's who Steve
Um,
is. That's why we love him.
yeah. So, but a lot of this stuff makes sense, so I just wanted to kind of read it. So basically, the tweets start out like this: a thread on why WWE GMs are apparently fucking morons, or why in reality WWE's writing is shit.
Oh,
So first, Paige apparently gave away her U.S. champion with no equal reciprocation, i.e. Rollins and the IC strap. That makes her stupid. Number 2, then Kurt either A, allows a man he's already agreed to trade in Jeff Hardy to contend for said U.S. title, which makes him stupid, or B, waited until after the show to trade Jeff in the U.S. title, which makes him double stupid. So Paige is stupid, and Kurt ain't looking too bright either, but it gets worse because Kurt traded the Bar, who have a shot at his tag titles in less than 2 weeks. Then to take him to full-on fucking idiot level, he trades Samoa Joe, who has not only a shot at his IC title, but also a potential shot at his Universal title within the next few weeks. I know it's kayfabe, but bear with me. Within the fictional universe that is WWE, Raw could potentially wind up losing the U.S. title via trading Jeff, the tag titles due to the Bar potentially winning them, and the IC and Universal straps due to Joe.
or Miz.
So by the night, what's that?
Or Miz.
Right. So by the night after Backlash, there exists a possibility within the confines of this fictional universe that Raw could have only one title on the entire show, that being the women's. SmackDown could have literally every title except Nia's and the Cruiserweight. All because Kurt Angle is a fucking moron who literally traded away the number one contenders to literally all of his male titles mere days before the already scheduled matches take place. In kayfabe, Angle's a massive dipshit. In reality, WWE has some really sloppy writers. So there's some valid points here. And it's actually, I like to piggyback off his points before I let you take the wheel
No,
on this.
please, yes.
Because and what I mean by piggyback is his points make a lot of sense. And he said, I know it's kayfabe. And that is where I have the issue, because part of what I enjoy about wrestling, even as, a fan who is ingratiated with the internet side and things like that, I enjoy the unpredictability of a show. You and me talk a lot of times. If I can't get to watch a Raw immediately or a pay-per-view or something, sometimes I'll be like, hey man, don't tell me anything. I want to try, if I, go back and watch it. If I don't have time, if I know I'm not going to have time, I'll say, okay, go ahead and tell me what happened. But I like to be surprised. And so what I feel what happens sometimes with these shakeups, and it's not the first time, because I'm pretty sure this happened last year too. I'm not the historian here, okay? So, but I'm almost 100% positive. I remember having the same thought.
Yeah.
But it's almost as if we kind of know what's going to happen. I'm not saying we know, because if WrestleMania proves us anything, we don't know for sure. But
damn sure
for
this year.
right. But for instance, the Bar is going to be facing Matt and Bray for the tag titles at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Well, the Bar's on SmackDown, so the tag titles are property of Raw. It's the Raw tag team titles. So I guess if they want to throw a curve and say, oh, the Bar won the Raw tag team titles, and they're taking that shit over to SmackDown because fuck Raw. You could do that. This is the only real complaint I have, because the IC and US, hey, those aren't property of any show. Like, that's just, they are what they are. They've made it that way where they've split the titles between brands, but we know the truth.
Sure. And both championships are both contested in matches that have somebody from either show. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. So those could flip, and that's fine. But like, the Raw tag titles especially, like I feel like I kind of know the result of that match. I'm not saying I'm right. But to me, like this goes beyond the idea of like Brock and Roman. This is like, Bray and Matt are winning the tag titles. They belong to Raw, So like, for me, it's just a matter of why do that at least like that early? Like, why not? Like for me, like this would be an idea I think you could do. You could have the shakeup, but not blow your load all in one night. Like you could potentially say, okay, well, the Bar loses to Bray and Matt, right? And then they come to SmackDown, and it's a surprise. It's not, and it was part of the shakeup, a late shakeup move or something. Because
but that's false advertising.
I don't like to be able to just know that the Raw tag titles are staying on Raw. Of course, like it might not happen, and if it doesn't, I'll come on this show and eat my words. But to me, it leaves too much predictability to some things. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, but the whole predictability thing is funny to me because we want it sometimes we don't.
Well, not me.
So I'll give you that. Yeah, you're consistent on that. But as a fan base as a whole, there's a lot of times we want predictability to happen. For example, every human being in the world, with the exception of Paul Heyman, Brock Lesnar, Vince McMahon, thought Roman Reigns was going to win.
Yeah.
And he lost. So, like predictability is, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But I appreciate the fact that they keep putting predictable situations out there. So sometimes the predictable happens, right? Daniel Bryan had to win WrestleMania 30, right? Or even had to win at WrestleMania. Like even though a lot of us thought something was going to happen, Bryan had to win. There's some predictable things. And then there's times where they pull some unpredictable things out at you, but they always keep it interesting. So I always like that. But to your point, oh man, that's as much as I may want to refute it. That's dead ass accurate because they
It is.
both
Yeah.
are idiots.
But especially Kurt. Like Kurt looks like the biggest jackass ever against a GM who's literally never been the GM before. Like Kurt has been doing the job for about a year now, right?
Yes, after last WrestleMania. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, like it's like Paige just walked in and was like, you know what? Not only am I new at this, but you've been in the business longer than I have. I still know more about wrestling than you, and she just fucking fleeced his ass on everything.
To Kurt's credit.
Go ahead.
Hold on real quick. To Kurt's credit.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
He did not book Jeff Hardy in that match. He said anybody in the back who wants a shot at the U.S. title come out, and Jeff came out.
That's true.
So the type of character Kurt is, he couldn't have said, oh, nope, you can't have this match because you're going to SmackDown. Like, he kind of had to let it go.
Right.
So to his credit, I don't fault him for the Jeff Hardy thing, even though he's an idiot.
I can get with that. Right. And if I'm the GM, of course, like you said, Kurt's character, because Kurt. But see, if I'm the GM, I'm like, Jeff, take your ass to the back. You're going to SmackDown tomorrow. Anybody from the Raw roster want to come out and take this shot, that's fine. But then you can't give away the surprise of Jeff coming on SmackDown. So it's very like, sequence that I thought they were going to do. And this part I do like. I thought, okay, well, Jeff won the title, so he's obviously staying on Raw. Rollins is coming to SmackDown. That was my thought, because he's the IC champ. Sure. But that's not the way they're going, right? And this is, as far as we know.
Wait a minute.
So
I just thought about something. We're not giving enough credit to these guys because Backlash is right after the Greatest Royal Rumble. So who's to say if the Bar does win, which would throw a wrench into things, that there wouldn't be a rematch of sorts at Backlash?
Right. There could be, but the reality is we kind of know the Raw tag titles are going to be on Raw. One way or the other.
What I'm saying is, what if the Bar wins this match at the Greatest Royal Rumble and then they lose it to Matt and Bray at Backlash?
Right. Well, then Matt and Bray could bring them back. That's a way they could do it to kind of like make it interesting for an extra month. But at the end of the day, I think the idea is we kind of know the Raw titles are going to be on Raw. Like, you know what I mean? So that's just kind of where I'm at with that. But
So
I can let some of those things slide.
right.
That's just to me, it's a minor thing.
It's funny as hell though to really look at it from a structured perspective like that. But
Right.
I do want to get your thought on the actual shakeup, and I am going to read off the shakeup
You're gonna
results.
have to. Jesus Christ.
So from Raw to SmackDown, uh, Jeff Hardy is gone to Raw. Is gone to SmackDown. Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, Absolution, to SmackDown. Samoa Joe, which was the biggest surprise of the night, to SmackDown. Big Cass to SmackDown. Asuka to SmackDown. Gallows and Anderson the Club to SmackDown. Sheamus and Cesaro the Bar to SmackDown. R-Truth to SmackDown. Andrade Cien Almas with Zelina Vega to SmackDown. And Sanity, Eric Young, Alexander Wolf, and Killian Dane to SmackDown. And let me before I go any further, and I'm gonna tell you the Raw roster too. Uh, all the complaints about Nikki not being called up, that's the best thing that could happen to her. Because if she would have been called up with Sanity, even though she is a big part of that group, she would have been forgotten about in that women's division. But her being able to stay in NXT and kind of have the face side of the brand built around her and be that anchor that Asuka was before her or that Bailey was before that, is only going to help her in the eyes of the company, her standing in the eyes of the crowd, and when she gets called up on her own, she's going to be a bigger star, much like Carmella was when she was with Enzo and Cass, and they moved up and they left her down there to build her own brand. Now she's the most successful of the group.
Right. Hang on just a sec before you read the Raw roster. You
Yes.
did mention the Miz, right?
Oh, and the Miz, yes, yes.
Okay. Oh, and the Miz. How dare you? Second of all,
I'm reading from
um,
I'm reading from an actual list, so that's
I'm giving you
why I
hell.
forgot the
Give
Miz.
you
Yes,
hell.
but the Miz is the most
As
important of the group.
the Nikki Cross point. Not only that's a good point, by the way, what you said, but not only that, but to me, it's a showing of trust
Yes.
and confidence in her that she doesn't need those guys at all. She can go do her own thing in NXT, and she's one of the few credible people right now, to me, to Shayna Baszler's title. And even if she may not ever win it, much like Carmella never won the NXT Women's Championship and down there, but
Hmm.
this shows that they have faith in her as someone who can be on her own. And we should be happy about. I understand she was really great in Sanity. I get that. We love seeing her in Sanity, but this is not a slight to Nikki in any way. Because first of all, let's think about this. Everyone shits on WWE and their terrible booking anyway. And everyone thinks NXT is God's gift to all wrestling shows right now. So
She's in the right place.
she's where she should be, right? She's on the A show. Why are we mad? So when you know what I'm saying? So let's just kind of think about what you argue about and what you get mad about, and then realize that, oh yeah, I'm always talking about how much better NXT is than WWE main roster. So maybe I think it's a good thing for her because I think she's going to come up on her own,
Yeah,
like you said,
and historically, because women's division, while it has been stacked at points in NXT, of course, I'm talking about when it gets rated, for lack of a better term, they always leave one person down there to kind of anchor the ship.
Yeah.
At first, when it was Bailey, when Charlotte, Sasha, and Becky got called up, Bailey was left. And
Yeah.
she hated it. She felt bad about it. But then once she realized what the course and everything that was happening, she was okay with it. Then it was Asuka. Asuka probably should have been called up, I'd argue, maybe a year before she was. But she was left down there for a whole other time. And think about this. Without that Asuka feud, will we look at Billie Kay and Peyton Royce with the esteem we hold them in, or will we look at Nikki Cross with the esteem we hold them in, or most importantly, will we look at Ember Moon with the esteem
Yeah.
we hold them in? All that was possible. In fact, I realize that I'm being a bit facetious here, but I would argue Asuka got Mickie James her job back because
Could
that
be.
match they had in Toronto.
Right.
So again, I know I'm being facetious, but like there's an argument there. But leaving her there opened up so many doors for so many other women to be taken seriously. And now Nikki Cross has that opportunity because we realize Candice LeRae will be a huge star, but she hasn't done anything yet, right? She had her first match. So in terms of established women on the face side in NXT right now, the only other person is Dakota Kai. And while Dakota Kai is great, Dakota Kai is not even possibly able to stand believably right now at this moment with Shayna Baszler.
Correct. Yeah, I would agree with
So
that.
Nikki is necessary. So, but I just wanted to say that because I know that was gonna come up. In terms of do you want me to go through the Raw roster too now, or do you want to talk about the SmackDown roster first? Because everybody seems to think SmackDown killed Raw.
Right. Well, just go through both of them,
Okay.
and yeah, that's fine.
Well, I just mentioned SmackDown, and from SmackDown to Raw, Jinder Mahal and the Singh well, I assume both Singh brothers, but Sunil Singh right now. The Riot Squad, Ruby Riot, Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, Tyler Breeze and Fandango Breezango, Natalia, Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre, Baron Corbin, Zack Ryder, Mojo Rawley, talk about Fight Forever, the Hype Bros Explode, WrestleMania 35,
Woo.
Mike Kanellis, who intrigues me, Chad Gable, who really intrigues me, Bobby Roode, Connor and Victor the Ascension. So that's your Superstar Shakeup.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a few things that stand out. First of all, the tag team divisions. That's where it feels really stacked in the SmackDown side.
Absolutely.
Like they traded. SmackDown got the Bar, and they got the Good Brothers, and Raw got Breezango and the Ascension. So that's
and SmackDown also got Sanity.
yeah, and they added Sanity. You're right.
But,
now Raw got AOP.
Yes, about to
Raw
say
got AOP.
we have to also remember that Raw killed in the call-ups and returns because Raw, while the only call-up or return on SmackDown was the Iconics, on Raw, Jeff Hardy came back. He's gone now, but he came back. Samoa Joe came back. Of course, he's gone now too. Bobby Lashley came back. He's still there. AOP came back. Noah Jose got called up, and Ember got called up. So,
well, SmackDown also called up. They made it as part of the shakeup, but they called up Andrade and Zelina.
Sure, and Sanity and Drew McIntyre got called up to Raw. But what I'm saying is, the week before, we're looking at this. We're not looking at this in totality. We're looking at it from the eyes of the shakeup and saying, "Oh man, Raw got killed." But the week before, SmackDown got killed with the guys that came back and debuted on Raw. That's all I'm saying. It's more even than we think.
Right. But yeah, the first thing that stands out is that tag team division. The SmackDown tag team division.
Real quick,
don't forget, must see. Yeah,
right,
go ahead.
But don't forget Ziggler and McIntyre seem to be a tag team, so that's another thing you could add.
That's true. But see, here's the thing. I don't think.
And Sami and Kevin Owens.
Right. Let's remember something though about this tag team division over on SmackDown. As great as it is, as how many great teams they have, they also have so many very talented in-ring singles guys that there's a good chance, and only a 2-hour show, that there's a good chance that tag team division may not get as featured in the way that we want it to, in the way that it would if it were over on Raw with the extra hour. So, because everybody wants to see Daniel Bryan versus, this guy, and AJ versus this guy. Yeah. And so it may not be as great as we think on the tag team side, where I will say on the women's side, I mean, once again, I do prefer the SmackDown side because they still got Becky. They still got Charlotte. They added Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, which is, they got the Iconics. They got Carmella, who I absolutely like. As far as a wrestler, whatever, but that girl is so great to me as a promo. So I think, and they got Asuka. So, like, SmackDown has the women and they have the tag teams, in my opinion. However, I think it's on the men's side, everyone's like freaking out because SmackDown added Almas and they added The Miz, who, of course, The Miz is The Miz, and they added Joe. That's really the three. Like, but if you go look at Raw, they added Sami and Kevin, who, like, are they chopped liver all of a sudden? These are the two of the best performers in all of the WWE, okay, that came over.
And anchored the entire SmackDown show for the better part of 9 months.
Yeah, so I would argue that Sami and Kevin, who are already established, by the way, are equal to Miz and Andrade at least,
Miz and Joe.
in my
I
opinion.
would give him Miz and Joe because while we look at Joe with the esteem we look at, what has Joe done Kevin Owens hadn't done? Or Kevin Owens didn't do first.
Kevin Owens has done more than Joe has so far.
So I would look at them in the same esteem. I would look
Yeah.
at Miz and I realize Sami Zayn hasn't been successful, but the level of performer he is and the level of great matches he's had and the level of Sami Zayn has an ability to make whatever angle he's in better. So
No, yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is I would personally call me crazy, but I would say that Zayn, Owens, and Ziggler, or you want to put Rude in there or whatever it is, but any confluence of those three or four are just as equal to Joe, Miz, and Andrade. Personally,
No, I would agree.
okay.
I mean, I don't think, yeah, I don't see like a huge, there's not a huge gap there. And you could say the Andrade going to SmackDown is just as equal as Drew McIntyre going to Raw.
Absolutely.
I mean, McIntyre is a fucking stud, and like people forgot about him because he got hurt.
Well, people
That's
feel
why
about
we
Drew how
forgot.
you feel about Bobby Roode, so that's what that is.
That's fair, but when I talk about Bobby Roode, I'm telling the truth. When people talk about Drew McIntyre, they're telling lies and slander. So that's the difference.
Okay, so let me ask you this: How do you feel
Yeah, go
about
ahead.
what do you think about Baron Corbin? Because that's a bit of a controversial one in that you know how a lot of diehards aren't big on him, but Vince is big on him, and I think he has massive potential. But I feel like they're going to shoot him to the moon on Raw. What do you think?
Well, they could. I mean, I could see that, but once again, he poses a threat, and he's already been built, not necessarily as a threat, but as someone who could go somewhat toe to toe with Braun Strowman. And I say that if you go back to the Royal Rumble 2017, he was the one who got rid of Braun with the clothesline over the top.
Yes, he was the final part. Yes.
So, and by the way, Braun, who we all love, is still on Raw. Just FYI, guys. But anyways,
Braun, Rollins, Finn, yeah, a lot of people.
yeah, a lot of people stayed. They just don't. We're not thinking about that. So, but anyways, um, yeah, I don't know if he'll get shot to the moon. I could see Baron Corbin maybe winning the IC title pretty quick.
I see
Because
Corbin fighting for the Universal title actually, but go ahead.
well, maybe if Brock loses it.
Funny.
I'm telling you right now, if Baron Corbin beats Brock Lesnar, that's not going to go over well with people. I don't see that going over. Maybe, I mean, it'll go over well with me.
Yeah.
Because once again, get that fucking title off Brock Lesnar. But
Hashtag.
yeah, I should hashtag that. But anyways, I think Baron. I don't know. I mean, he started out before the brand split, he debuted. He was on Raw. He had won the Andre. They've tried to do a lot of things with him, and it just hasn't really for whatever reason, it hasn't clicked the way I think they have hoped it was. But Raw, it's a good change of pace for him because on SmackDown, as much as I like Baron, he just didn't fit very well with a lot of the top talent that they had on the show at the time. Baron doesn't fit well with guys like AJ and stuff that are just everyone's so much smaller. And on Raw, it's kind of the land of giants. You know what I mean? In a lot of ways. So I think it's the land of the big names. Like
It's entertainment.
I don't know. Yeah,
Raw's the entertainment show, SmackDown's a wrestling show, just like it used to be. They kind of just made it that again.
pretty much. And Baron is more of he's just a big guy, and he's got to have it just doesn't fit with some of those smaller types. He can go over to. I'm not saying he can't have good matches with them, but he can go over to Raw and get into it with Braun Strowman or get into it with, any of those Roman Reigns or whatever.
Yeah, but see, I think that's bad for him because Baron Corbin reminds me a lot of Test, and that's gonna go over well with people listening. But what I mean is, Test was a good worker, but he worked better with smaller people.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
could argue that Taker works better with smaller people, but
No, I would definitely agree with that.
right.
Yeah.
So I feel like Corbin works a lot better because go look at his match with Samoa Joe. Go look at his match with Bull Dempsey. Maybe he got more in him. And I mean, I really do. I really am high on Corbin because I think of him a lot higher than a lot of fans do. But I'd much rather see him fight guys like Rollins and Finn than. And Roman works. For Roman being 6'3", 270 or whatever he is, he works a lot smaller than he looks sometimes. So I can see them working well, but I don't know if I want to see Baron Corbin versus every big man.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. I feel like Corbin kind of ran out of feuds a little bit because, like, I mean, granted they could have given him more with the shakeup, but he did his thing with AJ. He did his thing with Sammy ad nauseum. I mean, he's kind of been involved in a lot of different things, and the whole like the success. I just don't think SmackDown's the right show for him. I really don't. And that's just me personally. I don't want to spend just a ton of time talking about Baron Corbin because, I mean, you know what I'm saying. But as a whole, as far as the SmackDown or not SmackDown, but the shakeup goes, like, I feel like it's a lot more equal than people think it is.
Agreed, totally.
Because some of the big acts still stayed on Raw. Okay, I know everybody hates Brock Lesnar. I hate him too. Big act still on Raw. Roman Reigns, big act. Still on Raw. Seth, Finn, Braun Strowman. That's 5 names off the top of my head that are huge acts that are still on Raw. And 2 of them are considered 3 if you want to count Roman. Some people don't. I do. But 3 of these guys are high-level performers every single time they step in the ring. And on SmackDown, I mean, yeah, you've got Daniel Bryan, you've got AJ, you've got Nakamura, Samoa Joe now. The Miz, 5 more big acts,
Jeff Hardy,
and they
Randy
can all
Orton, Andrade. Yeah, that's a lot.
Like, there's a lot. I think there's a lot on both sides because now even with Raw, like, you can hate Dolph Ziggler if you want, but he can wrestle, and him and Drew McIntyre is intriguing. Yeah. Like, there's a lot there.
Lashley, Sammy and Kevin, yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's just like, it's not as like SmackDown, and that's why you saw me the other night on Twitter. Every time someone would put up a poll, who won the shakeup, I kept voting for Raw and quote tweeting and being like, these polls are fucking stupid.
Yes.
Like, they don't intentionally stack shows, in my opinion. I really don't think they do that. Some people think that. I don't think they do.
But you know what? I think it's a good thing that fans have that perception about SmackDown, and I say that because then Vince smacks him in the face with Big Cass. Because how many SmackDown fans were sitting here just truly just, oh my God, Bryan's back. He's going to wrestle everybody.
Dude, you got to save this.
Yes, I'm sorry.
But yes, that's a great point. We're going to get to that in a little bit. We can't yet. You got to zip it, man. You got to zip it for now. You wanted to.
It was
time.
Coming out. It just,
I know
it moved out of my mouth.
That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here to help you.
So we're not gonna say necessarily who won. We already said we're not gonna go and do the who won the shakeup. We're not gonna do that.
Raw.
We've already We've already said who we think was the best move. You said Andrade. I said Drew. In terms of the shakeup, where do you see? So let's say a year from now. What do you see for both shows? Like, where do you see things going? Because I think it's a very fair thought process to assume that Brock won't be champion by next year's WrestleMania. So,
if he is, ain't nobody gonna be watching Raw. Well, we'll see. Where do I see it going? I do think. I think before the year's out. I think Daniel Bryan is going to win the title before the year's out. I don't think they're going to do it at WrestleMania. I just feel like, and I think it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be a pressure thing, but like, I do think it's going to be a pressure thing because you're already seeing this shit and we're going to get to it. So before you even argue me, just let that simmer for what we're going to talk about later. I think the direction on SmackDown is really good because I think, like you said earlier, it's going to be the wrestling show. I think we're going to see Shinsuke Nakamura as champ pretty soon. As a matter of fact, I would argue he probably it should happen really soon.
I say next Friday, yeah.
Yeah. As far as Raw goes, I don't really know. Because I assume Brock Lesnar's Jesus Christ. I assume Brock Lesnar isn't going to be the champ, but I can't, like, once again, I really, like, this is going to really piss some people off, but I would really, really, really want to see what they do with Jinder Mahal over there. I'm really interested because, like, I think like, a lot of people don't agree with it, but I think he has actual heel heat right now, like real heat.
I think so too.
Like, a lot of people think it's because they just don't want to see him on TV, and I'm not buying that shit. Like, I think that has legs, although when you interact with No Way Jose in the locker room after you lose the U.S. title, you could also be heading a completely different direction. But I don't think Jinder Mahal opens the show of the Superstar Shakeup just to drop immediately down the card.
No,
like that.
no. They definitely see something in him, and he, whether fans want to admit it or not, he is a valuable piece to the roster. Absolutely.
He fits better on Raw.
Yeah,
because
of
if you
course.
look from the entertainment standpoint of it, that standpoint is more Jinder because he's got the cool entrance and he wears the suits and he's got the Singh brother and he can't, he appears to be someone who can't wrestle and has to cheat to win all the time. And he's got that kind of the anti-America thing. That is tailor-made for Monday Night Raw, not so much on SmackDown.
You do know that he's probably going to be put against Roman Reigns pretty soon, right? Like, that's
Good.
going to happen, right?
That sounds outstanding.
Because that's exactly what the fans want to see.
Yeah, they want to see the two guys they hate the most. I guess. I don't know.
By the way, I wouldn't be against that. That's not what I would. That's not the first thing I would book, but
Right, sure.
To your Daniel Bryan thing, and we're gonna talk about that more in depth later. But if he's blessed and able enough to stay healthy, the play is let Miz win the title, let Daniel win the Rumble, let them have it at WrestleMania, and let Bryan win the title. That way you kill two birds with one stone. Bryan gets the championship again. Bryan finally wins the damn Royal Rumble, and fans can move the fuck on.
It depends though, because it's already like it's in everyone's heads already. We want Daniel Bryan versus The Miz. That's what we want. And you know how I get real upset with this stuff because I'm the slow burn type. Like, you cannot give this to them immediately, but they are going to be working some live events in May, and it worries me that they're going to just push that up to SmackDown as we're going to give this to you at SmackDown when you really want it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I think Cass is involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think Miz, like, I've heard a rumor that maybe Miz, like, kind of has Cass as his hired gun.
Yes.
Like, there's a reason why they sent him to SmackDown alone, and then he goes to SmackDown with a plan.
Yes.
Like, I'm not coming alone.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
He got on the phone and was like, hold up, I can't do
And by the way, for people who don't like Big Cass, if they go that way, guess who's the man at getting people over? Guess who?
Daniel Bryan.
The Miz.
Oh, and The Miz,
yeah.
Sorry.
The Miz. Like, The Miz will get Big Cass I feel like if anyone can do it, it's that guy. You know what I mean?
And let's not play this game that Big Cass isn't over.
I love
Big
Cass
Cass just needs time.
Right. Oh, yeah,
he
sure.
gets a reaction. Yeah. It's not like he comes up there to silence like Zack Ryder does. Like, he gets Zack Ryder jokes always are welcome here on this pod.
Yes, they are. He has me blocked on Twitter, so
does he?
We'll slander the shit out of him. Him and Kalisto.
Wait a minute. How did you get blocked from Kalisto before me?
To be honest with you, I don't know.
Wow.
Really, I think I know what Zach did. I don't know why Kalisto. I have no idea. I might have slandered him. He might have been vanity searching, is what he was doing.
Has T.J. Perkins blocked you yet? Because you
no, and I shit on him all the time.
Every day. Okay, so we need to move on.
Yeah.
We have what some would argue is a bigger show than WrestleMania coming up. The greatest Royal Rumble. No. So while in importance it's not bigger, but the card is bigger and more stacked. It's also getting its own set. And what other show gets its own set during the year than WrestleMania? But this got its own set. And in front of 60 plus thousand, and they'll probably inflate that to about 75. But and legitimately, it probably could get 75. It's just with the set, you can't sit behind the set. You kill a lot of the
Right.
the seats and whatnot. But I want to read the card out to you. I'm going to started from the bottom. Now we're here. John Cena versus Triple H. Well, that's the first match I mentioned. That lets you know the type of card this is. Cedric Alexander versus whoever wins the Cruiserweight Gauntlet in the Cruiserweight Championship. For the Cruiserweight Championship, it was supposed to be Buddy Murphy, but he didn't make weight. Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. The Bar versus Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt for the Raw Tag Team Championships. Jeff Hardy versus Jinder Mahal for the United States Championship. Seth Rollins versus The Miz versus Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe versus maybe Lashley, which is some rumors are out there, for the Intercontinental Championship in a ladder match. The Undertaker versus Rusev, if I could roll my tongue, I would have, in a casket match.
And by the way, before we even finish this card, fuck the WWE for this. Because, seriously, I spit my fire about this match, and then they changed it to Jericho, and then they changed it back. How many times are you guys going to try and make my point irrelevant around here?
They see me trolling. They hate it.
I'm telling you, dude. All right, go ahead.
That's all it was. That's all it was. AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the WWE Championship, which I feel like this is the match that title switches hands. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns in the Steel Cage match. I don't got a problem with the match, but Steel Cage screams so much house show to me. Like, pull out the Hell in a Cell, bro. Like, do it big.
Well, no, because then Roman can't escape and win the title.
Which is
because he'll die. He'll die in the cage.
Which is what they're gonna do, yes. And it's mad annoying to me. And then the 50-man Royal Rumble match. Everybody coming back.
It's funny because this pay-per-view is called the Greatest Royal Rumble,
and you forget.
And I keep forgetting that about the Royal Rumble. Yeah. Is there anything attached to the victory to the Rumble?
Really, really pretty trophy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so anybody could win that, I guess. Who cares?
I feel like Braun's gonna win it, but that's just me.
That would be fair, I guess.
Yeah. So what you think? What you think of the card?
Well, we're not predicting the card, right? Are we gonna save that
next week? Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, we'll save. Yeah, we can just save it for next week because
it's next Friday, so we'll have a show before then.
Yeah, we'll get it in before then. What do I think about the card?
What do you think about the card in general? And then I also want to get into, once we're finished with that, I want to talk about the lack of female interaction on this card. Yeah.
As far as the card goes, without the women, I mean, the card's great. I mean, if you were to tell me this was the card we're getting with no women, I mean, I still want to see the ladies because they've been kicking ass all year, but it is what it is right now. But
sure.
Yeah, I mean, John Cena and Triple H. I mean, John Cena kind of looks like a chump right now, so I don't know 100%, but the match should still be fine. Like I said before, the Raw tag titles seems predictable. Maybe they don't do it the way we think, and they hold that off to a Backlash as far as actually, making some confusion. The Raw title is going to be on SmackDown. Make it good for a good story. But yeah, the card looks good. I don't really know how I feel about the Usos and the Bludgeon Brothers because the Bludgeon Brothers in no way, shape, or form have the Usos looked equal to the Bludgeon Brothers recently.
But
especially with Naomi coming out there and
don't hurt my husband.
She ain't gonna be there in Saudi Arabia.
By the way, that's
terrible. But
that's Did you see what Luke Harper tweeted?
Yeah, I did. He tweeted a few things. Enjoy your night with him, and then he also tweeted he put a picture of Naomi in front of him and put cute AF on there.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw that or not. That was
I did. Did you know Luke Harper has Instagram?
I did not know that.
Yes,
no.
And he actually posts stuff on Instagram. Now, granted, a lot of it is in character, but it is the weirdest, and everything is talking to Larry. I don't know who the fuck Larry is, but maybe Larry is the mallet. Maybe Larry's the mallet.
It could be.
Maybe. But yeah, sorry. But yes,
you're fine.
That's going to be a glorified squash, probably, yes.
Yeah, the card is cool. There's some cool, good stuff on there. I'm interested to see how they go about the IC title match. And I think, depending on where as a matter of fact, I think how they choose that result will in turn affect how they choose a U.S. title match result and those kind of things. So I still think there's a chance Jinder walks out of the Greatest Royal Rumble with the U.S. title and the IC title ends up on SmackDown. I still think there's a chance of that just because the IC title spent most of the year on Raw last year and the U.S. title spent most of the year on SmackDown.
Maybe, but
So I still think there's a chance of that.
I don't want to see Miz hampered down by that. Miz deserves a main event push.
Oh, not even necessarily him winning it because Samoa Joe's there.
Yeah,
and he's yet to win a singles title in on the main roster.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, but I mean, there's that. So yeah, I mean the card looks great. I'll be looking forward to watching Friday night, which is what time does that come on?
Friday afternoon at 11 o'clock.
Friday afternoon at 11 o'clock. None of that is correct.
Friday morning at 11 o'clock.
Friday morning at 11 o'clock. So I will not be able to watch it when it starts.
I will.
So I have to go back. Unfortunately, well, I got shit to do. So
that weekend's gonna be really busy, by the way, because the draft is is next Thursday, Friday and Saturday. Infinity War comes out that next Thursday night, Friday morning. It's gonna be very busy. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty busy.
Okay. Well, hold on though. With the Greatest Royal Rumble, are they treating this like WrestleMania, where it's like 6 hours?
It's gonna be about 4.
Okay,
maybe
that's
5.
not too bad. With a pre-show, I would assume.
Yeah, it's gonna be pre-show. Yeah.
What do we know? What matches are on the pre-show?
I don't even know if they're gonna do matches on the pre-show.
Okay, all right. I'm not I know I sound completely ignorant, but there's a lot of things that don't feel ironed out on some of this, I guess, So I'm not used to these start times. Friday at 11 a.m. Obviously they're in Saudi Arabia. I understand it, but it's Friday at 11 is blows my mind.
I love it.
So
just like
you love it.
Like the Beast in the East, where it was at 3 o'clock in the morning. That stuff is cool to me.
Yeah, well, 3 o'clock in the morning is one thing. 11 o'clock in the a.m. I worry, especially over here on the state side, a lot of people are going to have to wait because a lot of people work 8 to 5 or whatever, in school,
watch
whatever.
Live, bro. Just watch when you get home.
I know, but you got to avoid spoilies, man.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Everybody reads spoilers, so yeah.
Not me.
I forgot you are the mark. Yes.
I ain't talking to none of you bitches on Friday. I'm blocking everyone. Shutting down my accounts.
Well, I will make sure I send all of my messages through Sally.
She'll be like, who is Jinder Mahal?
Jinder Mahal. I can see you saying that. Okay, so let's get serious for a second.
Oh boy. All right, Lance Storm.
If I can be serious for a minute.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
There's no woman on this card. Of course, Saudi Arabia is not the most timely country when it comes to women's rights. Women can't go to sporting events. Women can be seen in public, I believe, without wearing a full hijab and the full garb. But there's a lot of controversy because WWE is a big part of this women's revolution or evolution that they're doing right now. So what I wanted to mention before I get your opinion is I read two columns on LOP the past week. One by Rob Simmons, Triple R, and one by this other guy. I don't know him personally, but his handle is Heel Pastor. So Rob's column was about how women are treated, and WWE, while it's understandable that they would take the money, we shouldn't be supporting this, and the women have gone too far, and how seriously that women are looked at as effectively second-class citizens in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Then Hill Pastor, the other guy, wrote a column on the other side of it, which, while he agrees that women should be treated better, and we need to move things forward in that country, he worked there as a teacher, and so many of the little girls who he would teach were huge WWE fans because they could watch it on television. And a lot of their heroes or idols or people they looked up to were WWE divas or women superstars or whatever you want to call them. And that gave them a bit of a sense of empowerment that, I would assume a lot of women may not get in that country. So with that being said, uh, what do you think? Do you think uh, WWE is opportunistic and wrong for taking the money, so to speak? Do you think that good can come of it? How should the women feel? Like what are your thoughts on that aspect of the situation?
Man, it's tough because as someone who's kind of like in that business world, like it, it's wrong of me to like fault a company for taking advantage of a business opportunity. However, there are, I would say, if it was a situation where the women on the roster were adamantly against it, you might consider trying to work something out. However, this doesn't seem like that's what's happening. I feel like a lot of the women are accepting of the fact, because here's one thing to think about. Yes, it's a all around kind of a bad deal, but this is a long term deal for them, right?
Yeah,
So by
absolutely.
doing this, and I'll let you touch on a point you were going to make about this for the long term, but I just want to think about it like when they get back stateside or when they go to other places. A lot of revenue is going to come in from this, a lot of money to be made. And one thing that smart business people do when they make money is they reinvest it in their people, in their company. So, in theory, you could look at it as an opportunity for Vince to make a lot of money and reinvest it in his women again when they get stateside. It's an unfortunate thing. I don't think you can just break a business deal in this situation.
Sure.
I don't know, man. It's tough. Like I don't have a strong opinion because as much as I would like, I feel like the way we're so like where we are now with the women's wrestling, it almost feels it not almost it does feel odd now to know we're going to watch a show where not a single one of them are going to be on the card
Very weird.
because there's such a vital part of the lifeblood of the company now. Like they have made themselves to their own credit on their I mean they did it all on their own. They made themselves hugely important. I mean some of the people have argued that the women, the Charlotte and Asuka specifically, people argue it was the best match at WrestleMania, including myself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that tells you, and I know you wanted to kind of touch on what you think it could mean for them down the road, and so I'm going to let you get to that point because I mean, you definitely explained a lot better than I did. I thought you were a lot more elaborate on it. So, for me personally, what I think is just, it's a tough spot to be in, but I don't think that you can pass up on this kind of deal right now. You know, it's an opportunity to because it's not like they're going to go there all the time. They're not going to live in Saudi Arabia. You know, and I understand people's point of view on it,
Sure.
and I'm probably going to catch some heat for this, but I still think it's the right call to do business there.
Okay. So I we live in a world right now. Um, there's a lot, of course, there's a lot of unrest in our country and a lot of other countries and things of that nature. But the world is much smaller thanks to technology, right? The world's much faster thanks to technology. Something happens in the news, literally 2 minutes later, it's viral and everybody knows about it. I bring that up to say this: we live in a world now where we feel like if there is some type of injustice, something should be done about it immediately. You know, if I may use an example, and I'm not going to be political, but if I may use an example, the two black men that were arrested in Starbucks for just sitting down, waiting for their friend to get there. Well, that got viral the same day, and all of a sudden now it hasn't even been a week, and Starbucks has already announced that they're going to close down the entirety of all their U.S. stores in a month to have racial bias training or racial, uh, understanding training, whatever it is, right? If this was 20 years ago, not only would that have never happened, but if it did happen, it wouldn't have been as quick as it has. So I feel like there's a uh, perception and a belief that if something is wrong with the ability we have for social media and with technology and things of that nature, that something should be done about it right now. And I think that trivializes a lot of significant issues because real issues take forever. You know, I'm a black man, you're a white man. There was a time we couldn't talk. That wasn't fixed in a day. It wasn't fixed in a year. That has taken years to be addressed. And even now to this day, it's still a problem in certain situations.
Yeah.
So I say that to say this. From a business standpoint, you can't fault any company for taking a business opportunity that will only help them and their employees. That is just factual. Whatever you feel about your opinions about anything else, you cannot dispute that one fact. You can't. Just impossible. Getting into the morality of the situation, yes, I can understand there being some concern about supporting a regime, if you will, because it is the kingdom the royal family working directly with WWE, since it is a kingdom. But there I can understand having issue with supporting the regime of a country that is, pretty much treated women like second class citizens. That's it. I get it. But I will say this. To Hill Pastor's point, the guy who I mentioned earlier, you don't know what the spark of change is going to be when it sparks it, right? The one thing that I know about WWE is I think this whole situation would be a different conversation if, because of this Saudi Arabia deal and this upcoming huge show, if they started devaluing the women or having shows where they stop showing women just because of this, then yes, they deserve to be destroyed. But they're pushing them stronger than ever. You could arguably say their biggest star in the company is a woman, Ronda Rousey,
Sure.
right? The
I
chief,
would say she is actually. Yeah, go
yes,
ahead.
the chief brand officer, who is the most supposed to be the most visible person of the administration, is a woman, Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah.
So, not to mention, Michelle Wilson is the chief marketing officer, I believe, because Barrios is the financial officer, right? So uh, they have some pretty, not only influential women, but pretty visible women in their infrastructure. And I'm not trying to say that thing where they have one woman sitting on the seat, so they're four women. I'm not going to go that far. What I'm trying to say is that it's very clear they're not going to devalue women just to get with Saudi Arabia. So this is the beginning of a lucrative partnership of not only live shows but bringing their television to that region of the world, which they've been working on for a long time. They brought WWE Network into India, and I'm sure UAE and a lot of these other Middle Eastern, Southeast Asian countries that it wasn't
Right.
necessarily there before. So now a whole nother group, another set of the world gets to see women in a different world, different light. What country was it the other day in Dubai a couple months ago, or Abu Dhabi, one of the two cities, where Sasha and Alexa got a chance to have the first women's championship match in that company's history ever in that country. And of
Yeah.
course, they had to be fully dressed to be respectful to the culture there. But that's what changes.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. When we
Yeah.
want to make this one big jump. And I respect the fervor behind it, and I respect the passion behind it, and where it's
Yeah.
coming from. But we have to be realistic. So I'm not gonna sit here and say WWE is about to be Martin Luther King and change the world. No, I'm not gonna say that. But them being,
And by the way, with that in mind, Martin Luther King didn't do that shit overnight either.
yes, yeah, absolutely, it took
So to
years.
your point,
Yeah,
this is that's why they call them movements. You know what I
yes,
mean? Like but go ahead. Sorry.
absolutely. No, yeah, beautifully said. Absolutely right. WWE can be one of the more visible catalysts of change in that country in terms of perception, because you will finally get a chance to see women in prominent positions in which you're not allowed to. Let me give you a perfect example. The first movie that Saudi Arabia has allowed to be shown, that's Americanized, I believe. I may be wrong in my verbiage of what I'm describing it, but it's Black Panther.
Yeah, you're right.
What's
Well, I
the
mean, like you said, verbiage.
who are
Yeah.
some of the biggest parts of Black Panther, if not the most popular characters from the movie? Nakia,
Yeah.
Shuri, Okoye,
Yeah.
and the Dora Milaje. That's a big thing for little girls in Saudi Arabia to see. So as once the perception changes, because that's kind of how racism it didn't end, of course, but that's kind of uh how things got better, so to speak, is seeing people like Dr. King and even to a lesser extent, seeing people like Bill Russell or Jackie Robinson or prominent figures while they were militant in their own rights in certain situations. You can still say, well, I don't like him because he's black, but he's really talented. But seeing things allows you to change the perception of your mind,
Right.
right? So there were going to be little girls who were going to see Sasha versus Bailey, or Charlotte versus Asuka, or Ronda versus anybody. For the not only for the next few months, but the next few years, and a generation is going to grow up with that. And then not only that, but there are going to be men, boys, who are going to grow up with that. And you don't think that the royal family got little kids who are going to watch wrestling?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Who's going to eventually be the king or the sheik, whatever the I believe it's the sheik, whatever the head of state is in that country? Like, change is going to happen eventually. So you can't sit here and say, well, if it's not happening how I want it to happen, then it's no good. Give it time.
Well, let me ask you this then,
Yes.
to get on that, because I think it's valid. Do you think it would be beneficial
Mhm.
to the WWE if, and I say this because I just wonder, because a lot of times when these things happen, and like for instance, with the fabulous Moolah Battle Royal for WrestleMania,
Yeah.
everyone got on that and said, and they made it happen. But who was the one to announce it? Stephanie,
Yes.
right? Do you think it would be beneficial to the WWE if, at the very least, Stephanie McMahon came out and spoke about the restrictions on the women in Saudi Arabia
No.
and said, hey, this is kind of why, when, like, how we, like, I mean, because they can't change it.
No.
You don't think so?
No, because I think in this case, acknowledgement is only going to breed further contempt.
That could be. Yeah.
And
I don't know.
I
I just
say
think, I
that.
feel like that there's a way that she could just, like, what's the one I'm trying to say, like, ease that a little bit.
Sure,
Like,
but there's
listen, this
nothing they
is
can
what
do
it
to
is,
ease it. I don't think. And the worst thing you can do is in this generation, as crazy as it sounds, is to be made a meme, right? So I feel like her words will be parsed so much to the point where it'll almost be counterintuitive to the point.
Right.
I think what I
It
think
could be.
what I think the best thing they
Yeah.
could do is later on this year have a women's only pay-per-view and give
Okay,
them
yeah.
their own platform. You know, and you can have wherever you want. I don't really care where it is. Where it is doesn't matter. But where have the two women's champions, have it co-branded, have the two women's champions main event the show, bring back Trish, bring back Lita, bring back the Bellas, but have it and have that kind of the other side of the coin. You
Right.
know, the guys got their moment. We're gonna have ours.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea
Yeah.
too, actually. I don't see whether they do that, obviously, is up to them, but I do think that's a good idea and a
And
good thought.
then
So,
and then put the cherry on top by having WrestleMania 35, right? 35, yeah. Damn, a lot of
yeah, it'd be
WrestleMania.
35, yeah.
Main evented with Ronda and Charlotte.
I'm down for that.
Yeah. And then at that point, you're promoting equality as much as you possibly can, because now you've done everything that a man has done in your company, a woman's done. at that point. And
Yeah,
that's the only thing left.
yeah, it kind of is. You're right. Unless you want to get it down to the why would they had a casket match, pal? Like those kind of
Well,
things.
when you have the female Undertaker come out, then they'll have one.
What's her name over in the Indies? Levitaker, or whatever her name is.
Well, there are some Su Young and Rosemary. There are some pretty
Rosemary, yeah.
some dark female characters out there. But
No,
well, you want to go to Spitfire, man? Or you got anything else you want to say?
man, I think we covered it, and we'll talk more about Greatest Royal Rumble, like kind of a because even though we are different, we still do our predictions podcast. We'll still break it down probably next week. We'll throw some other stuff in there so it's not so predictions heavy, but yeah, I think that's good for now on that until we can really get to the nitty gritty.
An hour and a half of Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns analysis. Roman Reigns. I'm down.
Same here. I love it.
So, all right. So I guess we're gonna spit some fire. I'm gonna do it this week. And as I've been thinking about what I was gonna say, I've literally changed my point like 3 times of what I was going
God
to say.
damn
But I say that to say this. We got to talk about Daniel Bryan and Big Cass. There is nothing else that I could say at this point that would be more pertinent than talking about them. And like I said on my morning show with Jordan Fox, shout out to Jordan Fox and Worldcast Podcast. I have grown to love Bryan Danielson as a person. I was a hater of his as a wrestler at the very beginning of his career, but I've grown to love the dude, care about the dude, and really enjoy him as a person and as a performer. And I hate that I'm always set up to be the guy who has to talk negatively, or as I call it, honestly about him because fans are so afraid to be honest about him. I had to mention it when he got powerbombed on the apron and came back to work the next week and didn't even show any semblance of being hurt. Or at WrestleMania when he got powerbombed on the apron and then got every finisher that both of those two guys have ever done, and then still kicked out of everything and won the match single-handedly. Like at some point, I just want you to be honest about the guy. So let's talk about Big Cass. I've been very vocal that I don't want the guy to be wrestling, but we have to accept what it is. He's wrestling. So I'm gonna hope and pray that he stays healthy, and we're going to move forward. So let's say he stays healthy. I understand that, of course, there will always be that stigma that anything could happen, and one more hit, the concussion could be it. But I understand because he's missed so much time, fans want to see him do all of his dream matches, right? We're also going to acknowledge the fact that him versus AJ Styles on a random ass SmackDown is dumb as fuck, but that's another conversation.
Yes, it is.
I killed that on the morning show. I didn't do it on here, but yeah. But that's dumb as hell. So it's funny to me that so many fans are so upset about Bryan getting put with Big Cass. What did you expect Bryan was going to do? Did you think he was going to have the Cody Rhodes list and fight all of them every week until you guys got what you wanted? Better yet, did you think he was going to go ahead and the most, to steal the catchphrase, the most must-see feud of any of us we can imagine right now, Miz and Daniel Bryan? Do you think they were going to just run that literally this moment? Like that's something. I thought we wanted slow builds and good storylines that last a long time. You want to run that right now? You want to run that right now? Right? I thought that's a Mania match, but no, let's run it at Extreme Rules. What? Okay, have some consistency. So then let's attack the Big Cass part of this, right? Big Cass is a good performer. Is he a superstar? No. Is he top level guy right now? No. But you can go back and look at many moments where Big Cass has shown you that he has potential to be a player. Most notably, the Fatal 4-Way against Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens. I was there. That was in Houston. He was over, and he had a great showing in that match. At me. if you got a problem with that, because it's false. You're lying if you sit here and say he didn't. Okay? So, we know the dude can do it. So let's look at two major points. Number one, Bryan is more than anybody the guy who can get the most out of anybody in the ring on that roster, other than AJ Styles, right?
Yeah, yeah.
AJ's in the middle of what will be the feud of the summer with Shinsuke. Why not let Bryan elevate another guy to his status? What's wrong with that? Right?
Well, I can tell you, but go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I can tell you why.
No, I know, I know. And again, my response to that is, yeah.
Yeah.
Number two, has it not crossed your minds that maybe Big Cass is working for Miz?
I mean, I've read it, so I mean, to me, that makes something that could definitely make some sense.
I'm just saying, because Miz got screwed over to the umpteenth degree on Raw when he got moved to SmackDown without the Miztourage in such an embarrassing fashion, and then got jumped and got left behind by the Miztourage and got destroyed by Braun. You don't think the dude's smart enough to say, I'm going to SmackDown where I know I'm a wanted man, I'm going to have me some help?
Oh yeah, he's not coming alone.
No. Okay.
That's why they made such a big deal of him going alone. Miz he's the chicken shit heel. He's the thinking man. He's always a step ahead. That's the point
I'm just saying, right? So yes. So we need to get past this thought process that if what I wanted to happen doesn't happen, it sucks. Let me ask everybody listening a question. Show me the booking sheet for next SmackDown. I'll wait. Because if you can't,
Meltzer has it, I'm sure.
If you can't show me the booking sheet for next week, then how can you tell me that you hate something that hasn't happened yet? One 30-second promo and one big boot.
Yeah, that's it. And the thing is, it was a good promo and a good big boot. Like, I'm not trying to be like, just an idiot here, but like, I thought it worked out well the way they did it with the camera pan and Big Cass being like, really? Like, you're what the fuss is all about. I think that's a good that's just a good way to introduce it. And at that point, you had to know that that's where they were going. So the shock of Cass booting Daniel Bryan at the end should not have been a shock, really.
I completely agree. Look, man, it's simple as this. Sometimes we just need to let WWE do their thing and give them a second to show us if they're wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said before, man. I mean, you saw I put it out on Twitter the other day. Like, we're already going here with Daniel Bryan, and this is what drew the ire of a lot of people that just enjoy WWE. This idea, like you said before, that we jump on things so fast. We let nothing play out. And it's a theme when I was writing columns that I don't do much now, but it's a theme that I have hit on time and time again of instant gratification. This is the world we live in now. We're like, we want it now. We want it now. Yes. And if that's like, I want you to go back and watch either of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and watch the little rich girl. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. But she's the one that's like, I want it now. I want it now. I want it now. Like the whole time. And she's like the most annoying person in the movie. Okay. There's a reason for that. Because people that are like that are fucking annoying. Okay. I'm sorry that I have to say it, but just give it an opportunity and just let it play out. Big Cass has been on WWE programming, on SmackDown programming rather, for all of like a minute total.
Yeah. Well, so, I would say 3 minutes because there was 2 minutes of him standing there with his music playing before the show ended.
Okay, that's fair. So like, we just at least if you want to if it sucks and like they all play it out and it sucks and you want to shit on it, that's fine. But I'm with you. Like, I like to try and like see where they're going with things. There are certain things where if I feel like it's too predictable Yes, but we don't really know what the direction is with Cass.
I
We
have
don't
no
know what the
idea.
direction is. Yeah, so let it happen. Just let it happen. Daniel Bryan, like all these dream matches, yes, they all exist, and yes, they can all happen. But if they ran through them from now up until SummerSlam, there'd be
Well,
nothing left.
if they ran through them, yeah, like really think about it. What would you do? Not you, people listening. What would you do if they did every single dream match you guys wanted? So this week AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan. Next week AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe. Next week AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Next week AJ Styles versus The Miz. Next week AJ Styles versus Andrade Cien Almas. Next week AJ Styles versus
Well, you mean
Daniel
Daniel Bryan
Daniel Bryan. I'm
versus
sorry, yeah, Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton. Next week Daniel Bryan versus Jeff Hardy. Next week Daniel Bryan versus Eric Young. They ran all through all of those every week. What would you do once you got to SummerSlam? Help me understand.
You wouldn't have anything.
You wouldn't have
anything.
But
And so if Daniel Bryan is like your golden goose, you've got to
extend.
you've got to slow burn it. You got to make people salivate for
Yes.
it. Like that's the point.
And here before
I think part of it is people. I think in the back of their head, a lot of people are worried that he'll get injured again, maybe, and then those matches that they want to see won't happen.
If you're worried he's gonna get injured again, then why the fuck you want him to wrestle?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like if that's a thought, and I hope it's not.
Because I'm the crazy guy
just,
for caring about this man as a human being and not wanting to see him end up like I'm not gonna say anybody's names because I got in trouble the last time I said something. But before we move on, let me finish with this. Yes, we need to give people time for things to happen. But I think the biggest issue with Daniel Bryan is we need to stop changing the rules for this one person because the rules change for him.
moving the goalposts.
Oh yeah, because Roman Reigns is the most goalpost moved guy in the world, but no sir, Daniel Bryan is. I saw a stat the other day that I knew, but a lot of fans don't realize. Do you realize from WrestleMania 27 to WrestleMania 31, that man wrestled for a title at every pay-per-view? Every WrestleMania? I mean.
Really?
27, he wrestled. I believe it was 27. Yeah, 27, he wrestled for the United States Championship. It was on a pre-show, so you want to say it doesn't count? Fine, I'll give you that. But he wrestled for it at that show. 28, he wrestled for the world title. 29, he wrestled for the tag titles. 30, he wrestled for the world titles. 31, he wrestled for the Intercontinental Championship. But they don't like him, right?
Yeah. That's true, man. That's fair.
Like the dude is pushed to the moon. The dude is very clearly loved by that company and by those people.
Yes,
and
he is.
The dude is very clearly highly utilized. I mean, dude just came back from 3 years off because of a neck and head injury, and he's wrestled every week.
Yeah, and if you don't think if you don't think Daniel Bryan's not going to be running around with a title pretty soon or doing those matches that you want, you're crazy. They're going to happen. They're not intentionally not giving you these just because to piss you off.
Make fun of the fans. No. Because that was the case then, you think they would have gave you AJ Styles versus Daniel Bryan on free television?
No shit. Yeah. No doubt. I agree with you. So once again,
they could have gave you Bryan versus Jinder.
I mean, I'd pop.
I know you would. I would too, but I'm just saying, like, think about it. So yeah.
You're right, man.
But this Daniel Bryan's great, and you're ruining him. Maverick and Plan were two of the guys who kind of were on my same wavelength with Bryan's return because I mean I'm happy that he's happy. I'm happy that he's able to do what he wants to do. Like I don't want to make it seem like that, but their standpoint of the situation was, with all respects to Bryan and what he's done and who he is and what he can do, we've moved on. So
yeah, no doubt.
The rest of the roster has finally had a chance to be prominent and some of them reached the potential that they weren't able to reach because the crowd was so crazy about Bryan they wouldn't let anybody else ascend to that spot.
Yeah.
So now we've made all this progress. We've made some more stars who could possibly be big stars or on that level. Even some who are on that level who have been dropped down, like a Bray Wyatt, who was the world champion and went to WrestleMania as world champ, but is back down in the mid card. But things of this nature. And we bring Bryan back now, and now the crowd only wants nothing else but Bryan now. You're kind of killing your roster. And it's not
you can't.
WWE.
Once again, you can't, like you said earlier. You can't move the goalposts for this guy.
Yeah.
just because like he's back, like there's a lot of other guys who've been busting their ass for the last few years. And Daniel Bryan, like you can have him right there. You can insert him immediately into a good position where he's not quite he's not quite going to win the WWE title, but he's not quite US champ or intercontinental champ. Like he can be in that mix where he puts on a great match with a great person every pay-per-view, but you got to get there because guys like AJ and Nakamura, Samoa Joe now on that show, The Miz on that show have been busting tail, man. You can't just push them to the back of the line just because one guy came, whether the crowd loves him or not.
Help me understand
You
something.
know?
Help me understand something. He's been back for approximately wrestling-wise at 3 shows, right?
Yeah.
And all 3 shows, he's main evented 2 of them, and the third one he was one of the few marquee matches that was marketed.
Right.
And he's not only that, but he's moving into a marquee feud with the guy he could prospectively make. I think he's being utilized.
Absolutely. It's just
Just saying.
once again, like I said, it's the instant gratification.
Yeah.
They want what they want. They want it now. I want it now, Daddy. It's very much. I'm telling you,
Peppa
go
Pig.
back and watch those damn movies, man.
Peppa
I ain't
Pig.
messing around.
That's Peppa Pig.
No,
Daddy.
Peppa Pig, whatever.
I want it now, Daddy. Yeah.
But like, that's where we're at right now, you know. And I get it from the standpoint of man, we're so he's been gone for so long. We love this guy. We were itching for him to come back. But that's kind of part of it. Like he's back now, and you know that these things are possible when they weren't possible before. So now that you know that they're possible, WWE has to dangle the carrot out a little bit. You know, that's what keeps you coming back. If we gave it to you all in 3 months, why watch now? Like
to quote the modern philosophers, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Yep.
couldn't have said it better myself.
All right, man, we gotta get out of here, bro. Let
Yeah,
the
we
people
do.
know where to find you and what you want to say to kind of end the show.
You can find me. I changed my Twitter handle at Outsider Curvin. Curvin is Kervin. Yeah, I figured I better change it because it was Curvin SMC. We're no longer SMC. So you can find me at Outsider Curvin. Hit me up. I finally got over 500 followers, man. I'm telling you, I'm famous. I'm going places. All right.
500
You
followers,
thought Donald Trump had a lot of followers. Let me tell you something right here, brother.
So are you telling me that you're gonna be huge?
I'm going to be a huge success on Twitter. But yeah, man, guys, hit me up. I love to interact with wrestling fans and talk about all kinds of shit. So
Yeah,
that's about it for me, man.
If you want to tell us that we're idiots or we're wrong, you can follow the podcast at Outsiders Edge SS.
I'll let Rance take care of those answers. But go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, well, because I don't think that Karl has ever logged on to Twitter with the Outsiders Edge or SMC Podcast Twitter handle. So hashtag make Karl tweet for the pod. You can follow your boy at It's Ray Cash, REY as in Mysterio, CASH as in dollars. I am starting to tweet a little more. I finally got over 200 followers myself. For somebody who does nothing but retweet, I'm proud of that.
Yeah, you should be.
Also, don't forget to support and follow the Social Suplex Podcast Network, Ricky and Clive, One Nation Radio, which is, I guess, a one-person show now.
Yeah.
Keeping a strong style, the Wrestling Watch with the Bathtub Baldwin. We are also, as a podcast network, still looking for a strictly indie show. So, if you got any interest in that, hit us up and we'll pass you on to Jeremy and we'll see what can happen.
Yeah, you could talk about Kaiju Big Battle.
Yeah.
On the Social Suplex Network. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Evolve or Wrestle Circus,
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be a good one.
And I'm not joking. Like, that's real. Like, that's we're looking for that. I am also, of course, a part of the morning show, formerly Good Brothers, now the Roar Class Podcast, which is sponsored, yes, by Imperial Wrestling Revolution. We're legit, people, yes, with the big homie Jordan Fox at Fox the Podcaster. So give us a listen. We do a morning show every morning, and we do good work. It's drastically different than what Karl and I do, but it's good work. Yeah. So that's all I. Oh yeah, of course you can listen to us podcast, Podbean, Stitcher, iTunes, Google
iTunes,
Play,
wherever you find pods,
Spotify.
we're pretty much
We're
there.
there. Yes, both shows actually.
Yeah, and by the way, guys, just be on the lookout next week for the Greatest Royal Rumble preview. I figure that's where we're gonna be going. We'll put our own little twist on it.
Oh,
You know.
I wrote a column.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
I wrote a column. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine on Twitter. Shout out to Darren. About is Roman Reigns overpushed, and I decided to get the receipts and find some statistical data to see if he was overpushed, and I did it in comparison to who I think we all can consider who he's most associated with in terms of WWE wise, and that's Seth Rollins, and you will be pretty surprised to see the results.
You need to go ahead and put that out on your Twitter page so people can find it also.
I have. You just don't listen.
Oh.
You just didn't look at it.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. But still, yes, I will retweet that again. You can find it on the LP forums. You can find it on socialsuplex.com. So yeah, check your boy out. But other than that, what you got, man? Anything else?
That's it, man. Thanks for listening. You guys have been great. We've been doing better every week. The pod is getting more and more listeners. So
the whole network, man. Thank you guys for
we're crushing it, man. We can't thank you guys enough. We hope you enjoy it, and if you ever have any questions or whatever, man, hit us up. We can talk about things you want to hear, things you want to listen to. We may not listen to you, just kidding, but
or won't, but
no, I won't. But we definitely we're always listening for suggestions. So hit us up. We appreciate the love.
We should do a mailbag column here soon, maybe like next month.
Yeah, we could do that. That might be something we could do pretty soon. It'd be fun.
See, I'm still in writing form,
Yeah, he meant podcast, but
Once a writer, always a writer. That's how I started. That's what I am. But yeah. So everybody listening, thank you for listening. We appreciate it, and we'll see y'all next week.